All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. So today we're going to be talking about that fall to winter transition. So these fish are transitioning to their winter hunts. Okay, this is kind of like that reverse of the summer to fall transition, okay? So either way, I'm going to give you some baits. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do, how I cover water, how I find fish, all that good stuff. So stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. So let's start out by talking about what happens in that, that fall to winter transition. So what does these fish do? Typically, these fish from that summer to fall transition, they're pushing to the backs of creeks. They're pushing to the pockets. They're still hanging out, on points. They're hanging out in multiple different places. There's wolf packs just hunting for shad and pushing them up against the bank, pushing them to the surface. So when this happens, you've really got to stay on the move, okay? Because the bait fish are on the move, the bass are on the move. That's the only reason the bass are pushing to where they're pushing to is because the shad are moving back there. Now the shad are going to start moving back out. Why? Because of more stable water conditions, more stable temperatures, okay? Whatever depth that may be in your lake, you'll have to kind of play around with it. Lewis Smith Lake is typically in that, anywhere from 45 to 25 foot range. Just depends on the time of the year, how warm the weather's been, stuff like that, how warm or cool the water is. But other lakes that I fish, it can be 10 to 12 feet. But with that being said, understand those fish are moving from a back location, like the back of a creek, the back of a pocket or something like that, and then they're moving back. So, treating those contour lines on your maps like they're highways and following them. Staying out, figure out kind of what depth zone those fish are at. There's multiple baits that I'm going to give you to help you figure out, actually 3 baits, but to help you figure out exactly where those fish are hanging out, what depth, and then you can target that depth for that day. And understand every day can be different. It can change. They may be sitting 5 foot one day, 12 foot the next. So you kind of have to play around with this stuff. But once you kind of get that idea of, okay, they're munching on this, then you can kind of cover those depths of water. Now, with that being said, understand where these fish are going. They're heading out to the main lake. They're going to be sitting on points. They're going to be sitting on your typical channel swings, not the inside where the point is, but on the outside of the channel swing, okay? And targeting those fish can, be pretty simple. You're just not going to get a whole lot of bites. But typically the bites you get, they're going to be bigger bites, especially in the winter. There's not near as much boat traffic and stuff. There's a lot of people getting off the water, so this is a great time for you to get out on the water and fish pretty heavy and, catch big fish. But now the transition part of everything, you're going to catch a whole lot of fish. It's that transition time you can cover a lot of water, and that's the thing. You need to make sure you're covering a lot of water, so these 3 baits is going to help you do that. One of the first ones that I want to talk about is an underspin. Now this is the Fish Head Co. underspin. I ended up buying this at a local tackle store and I absolutely love it because I can move it very quickly. Now here's the thing, depending on where you're at in the country, you're going to have to start slowing down. Like right now here in Alabama, the weather's just up and down, okay? So we're getting cooler nights, we're getting cooler days, but some days the heat's peaked up all the way close to 90. So I kind of swap back and forth between that 3/8 and that 1/4 ounce depending on how fast I need to reel that bait to keep it at the surface. You always, with these baits right here, especially when they're chasing shad, you want to keep that bait above them, okay? Don't keep it right where they're at. Don't put it below them especially, but you want to keep it above them because these fish are feeding up. They come up through the bottom of the shad balls. So the main thing is what I'm throwing it on. This is the medium fast action Elite Series rod, 6'11" by Thunderhawk. I really enjoy this rod for underspin swim baits and stuff like that. 6.2 to 1 gear ratio reel, 8-pound fluorocarbon to 10-pound braided line. It just eliminates a lot of those issues with your reel, line messing up and stuff like that. But either way, on the back of that underspin, I'm going to be throwing typically either this X-Zone Whiplash Shad, or I'm going to be throwing a Zoom Fluke. I've been having an issue with Zoom Flukes here lately. I don't know what Zoom's doing, but they're not, handling the baits apparently like they should be, because I buy 3 packs, and all 3 packs, my Flukes look like they have a flag sticking out of the back of them because the tails are stuck straight up. So I've got a bunch of Flukes to fish, or to fix. But you know, this X Zone series, I really like this X Zone whiplash shad. It's got a little bit more subtle action on the back of that underspin. It's a little more subtle. You know, these fish are used to seeing the paddle tail style bait, so you know, swapping to a Fluke style bait, I'm not saying this one in particular, but whatever you prefer to use, on the back of those underspins, it's a little bit more subtle action. It's going to have some action to it, but you know, we're going to be slowing down. We're going to be, you know, tuning down the action of the baits, because of stuff like Ned rigs and stuff like that, it's going to really come into play in that December month. But you know, any type of Fluke style bait on the back of an underspin. Now, another great one I want to talk about, and I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all probably going to be like, man, what are you talking about? Yes, a Topwater is still good even in cooler weather, okay? But you know, I'm working that Spook Junior a little bit different. This is the Head and Spook Junior. I've become really fond of this one, not as fond as I was of the Strike King one, but either way, you know, this is a great bait to target fish that are pushing bait to the surface. Now, you're going to find areas where these fish are coming up, and this is a great way to target those fish. I buy the clear version with a feather hook, because most of my fisheries, these fish are feeding on threadfin shad, and they're so small, it's really hard to mimic with any type of top water lure. You know, the blueback herring fish and stuff like that, I'm going to target those fish with something like that Papa Walker, something a little bit bigger. But either way, you can use this to cover a lot of water, but you're going to slow your cadence down, okay? So you don't, unless those fish are coming up, just blowing up on a feeding frenzy, you want to work this bait just a slow action, okay? Doing that, getting that good cadence down, you'll figure exactly what kind of cadence they want on the top water for fish that are not actively right that second feeding on shad on the surface, okay? But either way, you know, I'm throwing this on that 6'8" medium action rod. This is Topwater rod by Impulse Rod. This Energy Series. This was designed by Zell Rowland. Great short handle. Had this rod for years. Absolutely love it for top water, and 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. I run monofilament, okay, because monofilament floats, so it's not pulling the nose of that bait down. Secondly, it's got stretch in it, so you know, with that medium action, that parabolic tip, and then the monofilament allows for more stretch, so when those fish get those big blow ups, all I got to do is reel and pull into those fish, and your hang up ratio is going to go up a ton. Now, the third one that I want to talk about, I've become really fond of this chatterbait just because it's so small, and it mimics threadfin and stuff very well. This is the mini version of the chatterbait by Z-Man. I think it's called Mini Max or something like that, but I absolutely love this bait for mimicking threadfin shad. You can cover tons of water with it. It doesn't burn out as easy as you think it would, but you're going to start slowing down anyway, so this is a great time to throw the smaller version. You're going to get a lot more bites and catch a lot more fish. Now, what I'm throwing on the back of this Z-Man mini chatterbait is that Hog Farmer spunk shad. Now, this is kind of similar to the Freeloader by Rapala, but it's rounded, kind of like the Rage Swimmer. But it's still got that tail, and you know, it just looks really natural on the back of this. I typically go with the Ghost Minnow when it comes to like using like the spot sticker color and stuff like that. You know, I don't get too caught up on buying different color baits. If I'm going to buy different color baits, it's going to be you know, my soft plastics, my trailers, because like I said, you can change the contrast of your bait with you know, just by changing the trailer of the bait. Now, I'm throwing this on a 7'1" medium heavy action rod. This is an all-purpose rod made by Impulse also. Now, this was a special version for Lance, the guy who owns Impulse. But either way, you know, I don't know if they still sell it, but that 7'1" medium heavy is going to be, you know, your best bet, in my opinion, with throwing the Mini Max. You don't really want to go with a heavy action because you're going to be ripping that bait from them a lot. It's a little bit too much for such a small bait. But 15-pound fluorocarbon, 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. And, you know, I'm just using these baits to cover tons of water and find fish that are active. When they are active, I'm using these baits to counter what they're doing right then and then get those fish in the boat. But either way, guys, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. As always, if you have any questions, drop a comment down below, or you just want to talk fishing, or you want to add something to what I'm saying, drop a comment down below. That's how we all learn. That's what this fishing channel is dedicated to, is us learning as anglers and being able to go out on the water and catch a lot of fish. Also, make sure to check the description. All the baits and stuff and my sponsors links will be linked down in the description, including the rods and stuff that I suggest. But you can check all that stuff out, plus my codes are down there, so if you buy something from one of my sponsors, you get up to 20% off, and it helps me out a whole lot, helps those guys out a whole lot. Either way, guys, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.